If you were to say black Mexican, many people might say, what is a black Mexican? The fact is the people of African descent are widely dispersed in Mexico, just as they are in the United States and Canada. Photographer Tony Gleaton has spent a lot of time in Mexican communities that are predominantly black. As a result, he has produced some powerful photographs about the African-Mexican culture. He sees his portraits as a form of empowerment, works of art depicting a culture that has been lacking in positive images. Gleaton's photographs are now on exhibit at the Watts Towers Art Center in Los Angeles. The exhibit is called Black Mexico, the African Legacy. Tony Gleaton is here with us today. Tell me about that last, before we get any further into where these are or who they're about, that last photograph that we saw of the woman with the chickens hanging behind her. Where was that? How did that photograph come about? There it is.
The title of this picture is called La Polleria. And this is in a small town called Cuajinicuilapa in Mexico, south of Acapulco, about 5 hours on the Pacific coast. This is in the municipal market, and this lady she's the vendor of this particular stand, and she's there selling chickens.
What had she just said to you? There's something in her expression that she does. There's something about you she doesn't believe.
Photographs are just 1/100th of a second, or for me actually 1/30th, because I shoot at a real slow shutter speed. They're small. I have small relationships with people. I have a personality that makes me really good doing what I do as far as photographs, but actually really bad about having relationships over a long period of time with people that I care about. I go to a place, I make myself known, and I get people to help me make real what I want to make real about them. The picture tells maybe less about the woman in the picture than it does about me, and it tells most of all something to the viewer about themselves.
How did you become interested in this particular area of photography, this particular locale, focusing on black Mexicans? About
9 years ago, I was doing photographs of black rodeo cowboys in Kansas, and there was a cowboy there who had gone to school in Mexico and told me about an area where there were lots of black folks living. And a year or two later, I spoke to Betty Saar, who was sort of my art mother in Los Angeles, who's a really wonderful artist, and she spoke about the same sort of phenomenon. And I went to go look for it. And at this time, I had left the United States and had traveled in Mexico, seeking in Mexico what I think artists and writers sought in Europe back in the 20s and 30s, another reality, a place to go to, a place to not only find myself, but to work on my art, where I could in a situation where I could afford to.
Your focus in Mexico is a very narrow focus, though.
I grew up as a very assimilated part, in a dominant culture, which is Anglo in the United States, as an African American, not always feeling really comfortable with who I was, seeing things around me that were powerful, but that were not black. And as I grew older, I became more comfortable with who I am, and decided to find other examples, or try to concentrate on other examples of the manifestation of the black experience in the United States and in the New World, which were probably unknown to a lot of people, but which were still valuable.
You said to some interviewer, I think, that you like to search for what you called the other, people and lives that are on the margins.
I was a fashion photographer in New York, and I spent a lot of time trying to cater to people who were the power elite, and to magazines which sort of propagated a certain aspect of American popular culture. I turned away from that. I thought that if I wanted pictures that were beautiful of things that were important to me, that I would have to do them. And when I decided to do that, I took a really hard financial hit because I didn't make money doing that. I mean, I had a lot of odd jobs. I worked doing construction. I worked in the oil fields in Texas. I had to take tramp trains in Mexico. There were times that I didn't have money for food, that I lived with the Indians in the mountains in the Sierra Tarahumara. But these people who are just normal, everyday people who die a little bit every day, are the people that I can relate to. They don't win, they lose. But in losing, they live.
What, the people that you looked for and found in Mexico, do they regard themselves as a separate culture, or do they regard themselves as having a separate racial identity?
I think the people in Mexico primarily, the black people that I've done photographs, primarily look at themselves as being first and foremost Mexicans. Some of these people who have come north to work some people have come north to find better jobs, don't associate themselves with the black community, but still stay within the Mexican-American community here in the United States, even though they are obviously a darker skin color. They see themselves as being black, but to be black in Mexico is to be really at the bottom of the ladder. It's not so much that you're black, but that you're further away from being white. And Mexico has, I should apologize because I'm a guest there and it's a place that I really like. And it's not that this country does not have its own set of problems, but there's a parallel with how color, caste, and class is used in Mexico the same way it was used here in the early part of the century. There's a lot of there's a large degree of self-hatred as far if you're dark.
I don't think that's reflected in the feeling that one gets from the photographs. And when we resume in a moment, I want to take a look at some of the photographs of black Mexicans. Night Watch will be back. Stay with us.